How's it going, everybody? This is Cameron White with White Light Astrology, giving you guys your monthly forecast for December of 2018 for Libra. How's it going, my Libras? I've been saying this in all of my videos. I just wanted to make sure I was clear because I haven't been clear about it in my other videos. But if you're watching this, you definitely want to watch these from both your rising sign and your sun sign. I kind of write all of these from the rising sign anyway. However, watch it from your sun, but definitely also watch it from your rising sign as well. So, with that being said, Libra rising or sun people, I think this month is going to be kind of interesting for you guys. You have a lot of stuff going on in your third house of communication, whatnot. Venus is still doing her thing in your second house, so money things are still going to be up in the air. However, I do think that there's going to be quite a career change or a career highlight that's going to be going on for you guys this month as well. So, I guess let's just kind of go into it. There's 3 big days in December. That's going to be December 1st, December 7th, and December 22nd. Those are really the big days where you see a lot of transits going on, so I just want to make sure you guys need those dates. And starting off with December 1st, we have Mercury retrograding back into Scorpio. So as Mercury's been in your third house, in Sagittarius, the way that you've been kind of thinking, your mindset has been kind of going under a shift. However, it's just kind of like you're not exactly sure where to go with it. However, as Mercury retrogrades back into Scorpio, into your second house, I think this is when you're going to realize more exactly what you want to, I don't want to necessarily say create, however, more of what you want to have. Mercury is all about, communication, speaking, stuff like that. The third house is very much like your siblings, your immediate environment, how you really do things, not in the Martian sense, but like kind of like how you utilize what you have. And I think as Mercury has been retrograding in your third house, you guys have definitely been, kind of rethinking your mindset about things, trying to switch up your communication, really looking for, what are you trying to, what's the message that you're trying to relay? And as Mercury goes back into Scorpio, I think this is when it comes down to, things like your finances, things like your money, possessions that you own. I think you're going to be really rethinking about, not necessarily, I don't want to say rethinking, because as Mercury goes back into Scorpio, I think this is when you're going to get clear about necessarily what it is that you have, what it is that you possess, to where when Mercury goes forward in Sagittarius, you're going to know what exactly to speak from, where exactly your communication can be held as an asset, or the message that you're trying to get out there. As Mercury goes back into Scorpio, I think this is going to be a lot more, you're going to be a lot more clear about what's the context or the contents of the message that you're trying to speak out there. What kind of value does that message have? What kind of value does the truth of that message have? And I think Mercury going back into Scorpio is going to be very much like okay, now I know exactly what this message has. I know exactly where it needs to bring value. I know exactly what the truth is. And you'll start to be able to move forward once Mercury goes direct, but we're still not there yet. Also on December 1st, we have Mars squaring the Sun at 9 degrees. So as Mars is going through, where is Mars going through in your chart? Isn't it going through your sixth house? That's right. As Mars is going through your 6th house in Pisces, it's kind of like your everyday routine, your health, your habits. It's definitely kind of all up in the air. There's not a whole lot of consistency right now. And so as Mars goes through Pisces, through your 6th house, I think this is going to be the best time to really kind of go, okay, what's my next step? What feels right for me in this moment? Should I make this change now, or do I need to focus on enjoying this now? Mars in your 6th house is like, don't worry about your routine every single day at this point. I think this is just going to be good for feeling out what's going to be best for you. However, as it squares the Sun in Sagittarius, which is also in your 3rd house, I think this is going to come back down to, there's a certain way that you want to actually utilize the gifts and the tools that you have. And I think you're really in this process of relearning how to really put that out there. And the Sun square Mars in this 3rd and the 6th house is just really understanding and giving a new perspective and a different look at how you really do handle your everyday situations and the problems that come up every single day. How do you handle not knowing the direction that you're going, or when you feel like things aren't organized or things aren't clear? What does that bring up for you? And so I really think the Sun-Mars square that's going on in Sag and Pisces is really just going to be a good time to look at a different perspective of how you're kind of going about things and what place, you know, I guess what your perspective is looking at that certain situation, and how can you really look at the bigger picture? How can you really look at, you know, taking one step at a time and not having everything having to be so neat and organized and, you know, ready to go, kind of like making sure you can just feel everything out. Also, on December 1st, we have the Venus and Uranus opposition at 29 degrees Aries and Libra. And so this is a big deal for you guys. Venus is now direct in your first house. She's moving forward. Uranus just went back into your 7th house. So as Venus is in your first house, she's direct and, you know, she's feeling good. You're probably feeling really good about yourself. You know, things are looking nice. You're feeling way more confident and more, you know, loving, being able to give that value, receive that value back. And as it opposes Uranus in your 7th house, where your 7th house is all about one-on-one relationships, has a lot to do with, you know, like law and order and stuff like that, but mostly one-on-one relationships, marriage, yes, in the context of both, you know, partnership, friendship, but also, you know, relationship as well. And as Uranus goes back into there, where Uranus kind of wants to shake that up, give a little bit more freedom, liberation, excitement, Venus in your first house making that opposition to it is, I think that this energy that you've been wearing, because this Venus retrograde is a little bit bigger for you guys than most people, as Venus is kind of showing you a new you and kind of bringing more value to you in a sense that, well, you kind of go through that Venus retrograde. And now Venus is happy, you went through it, you're feeling better about yourself. This opposition to Uranus, I think, is going to bring a certain someone at a certain time, bring just the right message, the right thing that is, you know, elevating you to that level of value that you're bringing yourself now to. So I really think December, especially December 1st, when we have this Venus-Uranus opposition, I think this is just going to be bringing that value that you've been gaining more and more of yourself in when it comes to your personality, what you really put out there. I think Uranus in your 7th house in Aries is going to bring the right people to you that acknowledge and see that value and present opportunities. So that is going to be a really awesome thing. Moving forward, the next day on December 2nd, we do have Venus going into Scorpio. So this is going to be a big deal because Venus is still in, she's not in retrograde, but she's still in her shadow. She's been over this before. It was kind of like, you know, Venus went into the dark woods in Scorpio, into your 2nd house of, you know, money, of value, resources. Venus got a little bit scared. Venus didn't have enough of what she thought she wanted or what she wanted to have. So she ran back home to Libra to make sure she was strong enough and powerful enough. And now that she's, you know, she kind of got juiced up, she's ready to go back into the realm of Scorpio. And so as Venus goes back into Scorpio, into your 2nd house, I think you know what you've been wanting to have, what you've been wanting to own and possess and create. I just think Venus's retrograde needed a bigger shift, a shift in value and perception of self to really level up to the area of money and the level of finances, the level of possessions that you want to get to. As well with Venus and Scorpio, I think you've also realized, you know, what kind of you should let go of, what is kind of toxic, what isn't, you know, necessarily healthy in the terms of what it is that you want to have, what it is that you're kind of holding on to control to. So as Venus goes back into Scorpio, this is going to be a way easier time to go about this. You know, she's been over here before, she's done this. So as Venus moves forward through Scorpio, this is going to be a really good time to look at the specifics and target exactly what it is that you want to possess, what you want to own. And if you really want to hold on to that, but I know Venus's retrograde probably showed you, you know, what's worth holding on to and what's worth letting go of. So as Venus just continues, just remember that and don't be afraid to keep going. And we are going to talk a little bit more about that as we continue. However, a couple days after that, not too much happens in between. The second big day on December 7th, though, we have Mars conjuncting Neptune. So again, this is in your 6th house. Mars, you know, is trying to figure out, you know, where exactly his next step is, what he wants to do every single day as far as routines go. And as Mars hits Neptune, I think this is when you're going to become very clear about where it is, you know, you want to switch over when it comes to your work, when it comes to your routine, when it comes to your health. What changes are you going to make? Because Mars is going to hit Neptune, where Mars is about severing and cutting and inflammating, and he's on a mission and a path. Neptune brings a lot of confusion and fog to a lot of areas in life. So when you have Mars hitting Neptune like this in your 6th house, I really do think this is going to be kind of a wake-up call and more of like an intuitive splash of like, oh, okay, now I know what exactly I want to do. This makes me feel more comfortable. This is more of my zone. This is more of my vibe of what I want to get myself into and start, you know, implementing a new habit and new practices and things like that. So that will be pretty cool. Also on the 7th, though, we have the new moon in Sagittarius. So this new moon in Sag is in your third house of communication, of speaking, of how you really utilize the resources that you have. How do you really go about using those things? And on this day too, Mercury is going direct in your second house of your resources, of what you have, of what you possess. So with the triple whammy of Mars on Neptune, new moon in Sag, and Mercury going direct in Scorpio, to kind of sum it up, I really do think that this new moon in Sag is offering you guys a bigger opportunity and a bigger chance to kind of rearrange the way that you go about things and really utilize the resources and assets that you have. But I think Mercury going direct is going to help you realize what it is that you have. Makes you think, make you, come up into your brain like, yes, you have, what you need for this project. You have all the tools that you possibly could have. This new moon in Sag is basically like, it's time for a new way to do things. It's time for a new perspective. It's time for a new mindset. And Mars's conjunction on Neptune in your sixth house is kind of like, even though it's going to feel it can feel very weird, as Mars is in Neptune though, where it's a very intuitive, very much one step at a time thing, I do think Mars on Neptune is going to very much be like, oh, I know what action to take now. I know how to implement a new habit, a new routine, new set of way of doing things, a new sense of service. So I think this is going to be a really good day, and I think this is going to kind of shift you guys in the new direction that you want to start going in. After that, on December 9th, Chiron does go direct. So, Chiron going direct in your sixth house, it's not the biggest deal, but I do think it's interesting because Chiron's only going to spend so much more time in Pisces. And as he's in Pisces, in your sixth house, of your work, of your routine, of your health, of your habits, there's been a lot of things that you've been dealing with there in terms of more of a deeper healing and also more of wounds being cut in there. And so I think as Chiron goes direct, I think this is going to be a little bit like of a safe push forward in that direction. So it's not the biggest deal in the world, but it is something to hit on. After that, on December 12th, we have Mercury going back into Sagittarius. So as Mercury goes back into Sagittarius, he still is in his detriment. He's still in shadow, so it's not like, we're refreshed and energized and ready to go. I just think now that Mercury was direct in Scorpio, he was clear about what he has. He was clear about the message and the truth that he, was holding in his possession. As Mercury goes back into Sag in your third house, I think this is about spreading that information out, spreading that message, and being open with the communication. It's not about knowing exactly what you need to say at the time that you should say it, but I do believe Mercury and Sag going through your third house is going to be get it out there anyway, and you can kind of figure out the rest as you go on. I think it's just going to be about shifting your mindset into the way that you really want to, getting in the habit of being a little bit more, not necessarily clear about your communication, but being more open, kind of throwing your reel out there and seeing what you catch in a sense. If any of you guys are fishers out there. But anyway, I do think Mercury going back into Sagittarius is going to help you guys kind of open up a little bit more. So then, as we go into December 17th, a few days later, this is when Venus leaves shadow. So now Venus is still in your second house. Money things it could be very tight, could be very specific, could be very daunting in a sense. But as Venus moves out of Scorpio, out of shadow, where, she was pumped up in Libra, she was ready to go, she was facing her fears in Scorpio. Now she's all on her own. Now that she's left shadow, this is all new territory. But I do think Venus in Scorpio is kind of granting you guys the authority and the strength to be able to see through what it is that you want to achieve, and especially in terms of what you want to possess, what you want to hold, what you really value within. Venus in Scorpio has definitely been making you guys let go of certain value placements and where you really do place value in your life. However, I think Venus in Scorpio this time going forward is going to be you guys experiencing more of a direct clarity of what it is that you do want to possess and having a fire underneath your ass like never before to want to obtain it, to want to achieve it, to want to have it. So as Venus moves forward, I think this is just going to be a time to buckle down, not necessarily get serious, but be raw and real and be focused on that desire that you have there, and don't be, scared of what it looks like. I think this is going to be a time to really go for it, to really conquer it, and not let it so much be, Venus is the morning star now. She's moving forward rather than as the evening star where she's more receptive. Like, achieve it, go after it, just don't be afraid to be, really into it. Then on December 20th, Venus will trine Neptune. And so as Venus trines Neptune while she's in your second house and Neptune's in your sixth, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but I do think there's going to be a lot more clarity about how it is that you make money every day. I think with Neptune being in your sixth, where, you know, your routine, your habits could be kind of everywhere, Venus in your second house is going to be like, okay, in order to achieve this monetary status or to own and possess the things that I really want to have right now, I think the Neptune part of it is going to be kind of come some type of clarity in your life to where, okay, now you know this is what you have, this is what you can change in your routine in order to achieve more of that. So that's going to be good. I think you're going to be getting a lot more emotional and intuitive, like psychic clarity on those days, more of like something comes in a dream or something just kind of pops up in your head randomly. So that will be cool. After that, so this is when we get into a lot more serious things. Mercury is going to conjunct Jupiter at 9 degrees on December 21st. And this Jupiter-Mercury conjunction is kind of like, as Mercury's been through Sagittarius, helping you guys express more, getting more out there, I think Mercury hitting Jupiter is going to be like, okay, now that you've been putting that word out there, you've been getting the feedback that you want, you've been expressing more what you want, and you're feeling more confident about putting your head in and wrapping your head around what it is that you're trying to really, I guess, get out there. And as Mercury hits Jupiter, I think this is going to be some really good news. But at the same time, you know, Mercury is going to be leaving Jupiter and he will be making a square to Neptune at the end of the month. So just know with this Mercury-Jupiter conjunction, you may be feeling a lot better, you may be expressing a little bit more and having a lot more faithful beliefs and stuff like that. But as Mercury moves forward and squares Neptune, all that clarity that you got, you're going to have to make it last for a little while, because Mercury's going to leave shadow and square Neptune. There's still going to be some confusing times. You're still on a mission. You're still on a trail. You just have to really remember what Mercury conjuncting Jupiter brought to you and really hold on to that and believe in that. So then after that, we have our third big day of December. We have December 22nd. The sun goes into Capricorn. The moon goes into Cancer. Then we have the Saturn-Pluto conjuncting beginning within a 10-degree orb, and I've talked about this in my other videos, how it's not the biggest and strongest connection yet, but it is pretty, like, Saturn's about to start flying forward and hit Pluto pretty soon. So I like to count it from here. So on this day, the sun will move into Capricorn, where it's going to go into your fourth house, where it's about your family, your home life, your private life, your parents. The sun going into that is just kind of bringing the light to it, more of like the center of attention and focus. However, as it's in Capricorn, I think this is going to be the time to really structure, to really put a framework, to really get a grip on things that are going on there. But I think as the moon goes into Cancer immediately after it, and we have this full moon in Cancer, I think there's going to be a lot of realizations of what you guys really need and what you guys, especially with, you know, money and work, because I know those are big things for you guys and they are going to be moving forward. As this full moon in Cancer happens, I think this is going to be a big time to really realize what your needs are when it comes to your career, when it comes to, you know, your public vocation, the way people see you, the way that, you know, your reality almost in a sense, you know, looks like. I think you guys are going to really realize a lot of what needs to be structured and, you know, given some type of foundation in your home life and in how you center yourself in order to achieve those needs and those wants within your career, within your, you know, the bigger scheme of things. So as this full moon happens and the Saturn-Pluto conjunction happens as well, I think this is going to be a time to get really serious about where you're centering yourself and reshifting the way that you really center yourself. Because this is Capricorn energy. It is a little bit simple. It is very, you know, Capricorn is, you know, Taurus is earth and like dirt. Virgo is like plants in my opinion. And then you have Capricorn, which is like concrete. It's like, yeah, it's earth or like steel. It's like, it's earth technically, but it's like hard and very material. So as the Saturn-Pluto conjunction begins and things start to get very serious, where it comes down to, it's time for you guys to break down a whole new way of how you center yourself, what family looks like, how all of that stuff works. This full moon in Cancer is really just going to help you guys realize what it is that you need and what that's supposed to look like. So that's going to be really good clarity too, as long as you're open to receiving that. So then after that, really, I mean, Mercury's going to leave shadow and square Neptune, like I said, so that Mercury-Jupiter conjunction, take all that you can, because you still have a lot of expressing to go out. You still have a lot of learning, and you still have a lot of reshifting your perception. So as Mercury conjuncts Jupiter, you're going to be getting a lot of good news, but as Mercury squares Neptune and leaves shadow, that's on Christmas Eve, December 24th. That's when I think you guys are going to be like, okay, you know, Now I'm still just a little bit as confused, but now I know that I'm moving forward, and I know that there is a direction to move forward in. So don't get too, worried about that. The confusion's not done yet. Then after that, I mean, on December 29th, Mars is going to hit Chiron, which is cool. Not a big deal, though. I think that's going to help you guys kind of get that healing that you need to kind of get the healing in the sense of closure that you need in order to really start changing your habits more effectively and more efficiently, right before the new year. And then right after that, on January 1st, we have the Sun on Saturn and Mars going into Aries, starting off a whole new year. And I think it's going to be pretty crazy once we start going in January. So I think this month for you guys, just to kind of wrap it all up, I do think this is going to be giving you guys more of the clarity, more of the understanding, more of the perception change that you guys need in order to kind of change, or I should say fix the problems that are kind of going on and kind of, ease up the chaos that can be kind of going on around now. But as Venus is in Libra and goes into Scorpio, I think this is going to be the big time to really put your value first and recognize and realize where you do want to value yourself and implement that into your day-to-day lives. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and sharing, and subscribing. And I'll be seeing you guys next year for your January horoscopes.